We at Kajinga hope you found the episodes on Nguzo Saba beneficial. Those episodes serve as our foundation. Future content will strive to connect in some fashion to those principles. Now that the holiday season is past, let's talk about Christmas. Well, see, my whole thing is we're all about thinking about, well, at least me, I've started thinking about where all this stuff come from, all these things that we do every day without even thinking about it. So you either live in ignorance and just, this is what you've always known and you continue to doing this, or you figure out, well, why is there Santa Claus? Why is Santa Claus white? Why do we go to the store and give you a gift that you may not even use and give it to you as a symbol that I thought about you, as opposed to cultivating that since every day of your existence?
I went to Costco today. I saw a lot of people returning their Christmas gifts.
So you're supposed to be thinking about another person. You're probably not even thinking about the person. You're just going through the motions of buying a gift. And you're not really taking the time to actually be deliberate about what you're giving the person.
The line was out the door at Costco. It was around the corner. I don't know if they weren't prepared. I'm sure this happens every year. Saw a lot of blenders, a lot of appliances going back, a lot of useless things, really. People lined up. I guess they're going to get their store credit. They can get what they really want. But it's the longest line I've seen at the return counter all year. And I go every week, and it was out the door. I was glad I didn't have anything to return because I didn't get any Christmas gifts. So therefore, I didn't get anything that I didn't want.
The other thing for me is that I remember the years of anguish rushing up to that moment where, I don't know what to give, because we've set a tradition to give gifts. And I'm thinking, oh, man, what do I give? And then if I don't give, it's like, oh, I failed as a son, or I failed as a loved one because I didn't give this person a gift. And so I'm now going to get looked down upon because I didn't go to Neiman Marcus or Nordstrom's or whatever, or JCPenney's to go and get them a shirt or something that symbolizes my affection for them. What about that? Feeling that guilt.
Our neighbor comes over every year, knocks on the door. It's always the day after or 2 days after, the 25th. And she always comes bearing gifts for Evelyn every year without fail. I don't think we've ever gotten. Have you ever gotten her anything?
Her in particular, no, but I've exchanged gifts for the children.
I can always expect her to. I don't have anything for her. I doubt I ever will. It's not into Christmas in that sense, that way. I haven't been for a long time. That feeling of losing your luster for it, like you said, when you find out that it's all staged, a series of stagings and hijackings for whoever could use it the best. And it's been so distantly taken away from its original purpose. It's like who's staging it now is corporate interests to bolster the shopping season. And every year we're right back there into it, which is really what brings us out of our previous discussion series of the Nguzo Saba, which of course are the principles that roll into Kwanzaa, and the idea of we are going to use this time, or rather if we necessitate celebration around this time, that we celebrate things that are steeped in our own customs and our own traditions.
When were you told about what Christmas was?
You said, oh, well, your family never sat you down and said, well, this is the deal with Kwanzaa. But I don't think that anybody sat anybody down and said, well, this is the deal with Christmas either.
No.
It's just
No, you get socialized into that.
So it was presented to you as Santa Claus first, right?
No, it was presented in more than likely cartoons, advertisements. Santa Claus would come. You would see that cartoon about Santa and his sleigh. Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. If you owned a television, you knew that Christmas was the shit for children. I mean, if you had anything to do with a television, black or white, it could have been fuzzy. It could have had the dry cleaning hanger in there. But if you had a television set around the last 2 weeks of December, you got a thorough education in Christmas as a child. And then, of course, if you grew up in a Christian household, you then went to the church where it was authorized and stamped in your head that it was the right thing to do. So then you went back home, got back on the television, and found out all you could. Because as all three of us have found out here, no one really sat us down and told us anything about what it was about. And then eventually you hear in your congregation somewhere that it has something to do with the birth of Christ. You see the nativity scene, you start seeing all these cookie crumbs and bread crumbs, and you're like, oh, all of this has to do with the birth of Jesus, because you see little white baby Jesus in your church. Your church could be black and Haitian and Jamaican and Guyanese and Suriname. It could be Panamanian. It could be Cuban. Well, yeah, there's white people in Cuba like that. But, but inside the nativity scene, if you pushed aside the hay,
yeah,
you were going to see a little white baby Jesus. And this white baby Jesus was the son of God. And you figure since the baby white, the daddy white, but you already knew the daddy was white from a long time ago anyway. So you would assume the baby should be white as well. So the nativity scene, you go home, everybody's taking this thing very seriously, by the way, very seriously. The news is taking this thing very serious. They're telling you that you need to be nice and that Santa is in the North Pole. Santa is married. He has a bunch of elves that work for him during the holiday 24/7. They make toys. So you get a thorough socialization and education in Christmas.
Let's talk about Rastamas. What the heck is Rastamas?
Rastamas is in our Akan tradition of creating out of nothing where you are, as long as you're moving closer to your truer African self, as opposed to the European kind of wishy-washy.
So when is Rastamas observed? Is it like Festivus?
No, man. Rastamas really is like everyday thing. Rastamas is all year, especially like if you really want to see like the principles of Rastamas, you need to go on YouTube and check out Major Hype, the Ras. The Ras pretty much would be a good example of how to celebrate Rastamas every year. But that big ups, at Major Hype, even though we're not getting no money. I have a first, and it included barrel coming from America that my mom sent. In the barrel, she sent some toys and some crayons and some coloring books. And when I saw those items, I was like, yeah, I got some toys, some crayons, and some coloring books. And inside this barrel was this huge roll of colorful paper that they call gift wrapping. So I was told that these toys, these crayons, and these coloring books were not for me, but I needed to wrap them in this colorful paper and tape it up. So I wrapped them as best I could in the colorful paper and I taped it up. And I was told I had to bring these things to school. I believe it was Boxing Day, or it had to have been a few days either before or after. I don't know. I was 3 or 4, so I'm not going to be able to tell you the date, but it was the season. Not that I could tell what season it was in Jamaica, because there's really only one season in Jamaica, and that's just hot, and then maybe, it was just hot. So there's one season, but during that time, it still got festive on the island. Don't get it wrong. It was a different feeling on the island. Like you could tell merriment was out. Sorrel got broke out, so you got to drink the sorrel. Bun at Easter. Yeah, black cake was coming out. Things like that. So anyway, I was upset because I couldn't use these gifts. So I ended up wrapping them, which seems like a punishment. Then I had to take them to my school, and we all sat in a big circle, and we got socialized by the teacher that today was gift exchange day. So I had to give the gifts that I knew I wanted that were from my mom to other children and risk this lottery of getting some stuff that I didn't know, because I really wanted to. That's the fun of
Christmas. That's an aspect of Christmas.
It wasn't fun.
You have like the white elephant gift exchange type of.
But this is your first gift. You don't know what you're gonna get. It's like a bird in the hand. What came out of the barrel was a coloring book, which I wanted. It had crayons, so I had everything I needed to start coloring right there. Why did I have to wrap these things up, take them to school, and risk losing them to get a box of pencils? I mean,
was that what you got?
I don't even remember what I got.
Because you sound traumatized.
I probably was traumatized.
My first memory, I had just come in from Haiti. So I must have been here a couple of months. And then one of my aunties, a number of my aunties got gifts for me. And I received gifts. And it's like, okay, this is for you and this is for you. And I saw my cousins opening up gifts. I said, okay, this is for me. Yay. And that's what I understood.
What kind of pagan holiday was you celebrating? Because it was Christmas.
And it's on. Nope. And then there was a tree and they had us dress up. We sat on the couch and that picture's all over Facebook. Like one of my cousins put it up. Like we're halfway like on the couch. Well, we're completely on the couch, but we're so small that our legs don't even reach to the end of the cushion. and we're just leaning on each other, and we're next to this, this tree that's partially green and no real gifts under there. You don't see a big pile of gifts. It's just, a few boxes here and there, and it's a fun time. It's festive. It's lights.
Merriment.
Yeah.
There's merriment.
You don't have to be concerned about getting up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom because the Christmas tree is on.
Right.
I mean, it's a good and safe time of year.
Food.
It's like a nightlight?
Food.
Absolutely. A fun nightlight.
You have food that you wouldn't normally have all year.
That's all very interesting. But no, I was taught about Jesus before I was taught about Christmas. Somebody messed up your order. Somebody messed up the order in which you know. Because I got acclimated very, very early in life. So I knew that Jesus was tied into Christmas. I didn't know much about Santa Claus. I learned about Santa Claus when I came to the States. I was still young, don't get it twisted, but I was still a child. I was still maybe 4 or 5. But I learned about Santa Claus, I believe, in the States.
Did Jamaica didn't have Santa Claus?
I don't recall. Sure we did, but I just don't recall.
Or Rasta Claus?
Definitely didn't have Rasta Claus. Rasta wasn't sanctioned by the state back then.
Oh, okay.
But Rastamas was sanctioned?
No, Rastamas is just gained. So just like, you see how Kwanzaa existed from the 60s?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Rastamas existed from then too. But, when I found out about Santa Claus as an adult, it's something that I've always said is this. For the entire year, we teach our children about stranger danger. Right? Stay away from strangers. Don't take candy from strangers. Don't talk to strangers. Don't let strangers lead you anywhere, touch you inappropriately. We do that 364 days out of the year. And then on Christmas, we line up at a mall with our most precious possessions, and we force them to sit in a stranger's lap and confess to the stranger whether they've been naughty or nice, and whisper to this stranger all the things and they could be crying and we will scold them to sit still, be nice,
take this picture
with this Santa Claus. And by the way, the parents should know better, even if the children don't, that they're sitting their children on a strange man's lap. Why would you want your child to sit on a disguised man's lap?
Wait, you're forgetting a whole other part. This
part?
Same stranger is then going to break into your house in the middle of the night while you're sleeping, eat your food, and you're going to leave food out for him, eat your food, and leave you gifts, and then maybe kiss your mom under the mistletoe.
True.
Well, my first Christmas memory was waking up in the middle of the night, getting gifts. I mean, I was told mainly the Santa Claus thing, but then what I learned about Jesus and all the characters was through cartoons. So like Peanuts cartoons, the Frosty the Snowman and the Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer and stuff. I learned.
I thought Bambi was related to Rudolph for a long time. Because they were both cartoons. I was like, Bambi, even though Rudolph was claymation and Bambi was animation. But I thought
I can see it.
Yeah.
My challenge is like, all right, so, my kid's 5 or 6, right? Am I honestly going to be like, hey, okay, so Jesus, that wasn't really born on the 25th and never really wasn't in the manger. And when they tell you that there was 3 wise men, there probably wasn't, and virgin birth probably didn't happen, they're not going to understand that.
No, you're not going to explain it that way. So one of the things that we've lost a long time ago is the culture war. We've lost the right to teach our culture primarily to our children. Mm-hmm. And we use this dangerous phrase, dominant culture, the dominant culture. We need to really get rid of that phrase. The dominant culture is what's happening inside your house as your culture. You're culturing your children.
I agree.
Because what culture is happening inside of your home real time. Culture is how you deal with dynamic situations in dynamic ways that benefit you and your family, and hopefully your extended family, and then hopefully your community. But you start household first, and you orient self first. So one of the things is being well read in your history. Unfortunately, it's very, I should say, almost impossible to separate culture from a history, because culture happens in a geographic location, and then once it moves from that geography, it adjusts to support the minds and the behavior of the people with their new surroundings. So the further back you can go in history, the stronger your connection with your culture is going to be. At least this is what I'm finding. So if you start from there and you start your child off with the fact that you, Jermaine, are an Al-Kebulan. And therefore, since you are an Al-Kebulan, you are not an Asian and you are not a European. Once you have that foundation down, which should take a firm implant in the child's mind by the time they're able to speak, everything else is really going to be a breeze. Because what we learn in this country, in this country and culture, is to country and culture.
Culture, like
culture in this culture. I just made up a new word. What we learn in this culture is to not be apprehensive about giving up our culture. That we must always be prepared to give up our culture in order to fit in and assimilate into the norms of what the majority of the people around you are doing.
Okay, dominant culture.
Now you see, here you go, bring up the dominant culture again. Dominant culture, again, to me, is something that happens inside my home. The dominant culture.
So there could be a dominant culture in your home, and then a dominant culture out in society.
Okay, that's fine.
Good. And that's in the manner in which I said.
Okay, that's cool. So the dominant culture is happening in your home, and then in the classroom, then there's the classroom culture, which is mostly based on the watered down version of what America claims themselves to be, which is an acultural society that just is bent on getting other people to give up the strongholds of their cultures. So as long as you keep telling your child that you are Al-Kebulan, therefore he or she is Al-Kebulan, then you should be fine in explaining everything else from that context, because you'll always have references in Al-Kebulan to go back to. You can find the origin of just about every European story, and the majority of them you actually can find origins to those stories in Al-Kebulan. You can find similar stories to European stories that we do not see as having its origin in Al-Kebulan. You can find comparative and just as valuable stories in the cultures in Al-Kebulan as you can in European. And as long as you keep teaching your child that the reason that we don't celebrate certain things is because we come from a line of people that don't celebrate those things, that don't put values in those things. And that's okay, because your culture protects you from being acculturated. It protects you from becoming really a mindless consumer and a mindless drone and a mindless bot for, whatever the television is propagandizing into you. Your culture protects you from being manipulated by those elements. Your culture protects you from being prostituted by the mainstream forces, in my opinion. You look at the Chinese culture, go and tell a Chinese person Merry Christmas, and they may not even be able to speak to you in English. They've been living in America 5-10 years, and they didn't need any English to get them up in the morning because they live in a place called Chinatown in America, in a city near you. That's culture. I'm pretty sure they're not teaching their children about Christmas, even though their second generation Chinese American children know exactly what Christmas is about. I can tell you that the little second generation Chinese students in my class knew what Christmas was, but I can also tell you that I'm pretty sure they didn't celebrate Christmas in their Chinatown household, and we need to start doing the same things. We need to stop prostituting ourselves out to become cultural experiments to corporations.
So Jay, by the time your child is able to speak, you need to have your candle holder, all your candles, the right colors, the mat, your wedding gifts, your happy gifts.
So what do you do? So, I have my parents, and then I have in-laws, right, who subscribe to the traditions of, getting together, giving children particularly, not adults so much, but giving the young children gifts, and talking about Santa and stuff like that.
I don't think it's wrong for a parent to say, hey, if you're going to, I understand, your family and you're coming from a place of love. You want to show your love by sending a gift. All right. If you can make it something that empowers the child, is quote unquote Afrocentric, helps them to better understand who they are, and set those guidelines for those gift givers.
You can't, because you're not gonna call aunt that you haven't seen.
Okay, you're gonna get my child. You're gonna get my daughter a doll. Make sure it's a doll with brown skin. You can. I mean, it's your child.
It's your child, but what I'm saying is that you have no control over another adult's consumerism or budget.
But you can guide it.
No, because first of all, that's very presumptuous to even call the aunt that you haven't seen all year and say, "Hey, you're gonna go Christmas shopping." I'm sure
it's usually the other way around. Hey, you know what? I'm going shopping. What are the kids in?
Yeah.
All right.
That happens?
Yes, absolutely.
Or maybe it doesn't happen amongst the men. So
no, it happens with the mothers.
Okay, well then this we need to specify because we're speaking from two different experiences.
Okay, understood.
Because like I'm not gonna call Jermaine and be like, "Yo, Jermaine, this year when you go shopping for the G.I. Joe with the Kung Fu Girl."
No, I'm going to call Jermaine and I'm going to say, "Hey, so and so's birthday's coming up."
But Jermaine ain't even going shopping because the men ain't doing nothing.
I understand, but what I'm saying is, I'm telling you of experience. Family members,
like grandma, something like that.
They know the children's birthdays. They know it's the holidays, and it's the time where they usually exchange gifts. Hey, what do the kids appreciate? What do the children want? All right. So if you want to get them this, so and so hasn't been up on his grade, so you can scale back on that
gift. These conversations
Yes,
happen?
Absolutely.
So then why ain't y'all talking about Kwanzaa?
We're talking about Kwanzaa now. So we can.
I didn't know these conversations was even happening.
Yeah.
Jermaine, did you know these conversations was happening in the women?
I only know that from like listening to my mom and other mothers. Yeah.
I don't know who you are anymore. I didn't know these conversations were happening.
It's not an issue. It's not a matter of you don't know who I am. I am conveying the person that you know me to be to our family members so that when they bring in things from the outside, it's reflective of who we are.
Well, there you go, Jermaine. Problem solved.
Right, but then say, "Here, Santa bought you something." Well, you like say they come in and like, "Here, Santa bought you a gift." You be like, "No, there's no Santa in this house." You're not going to do that.
No, you don't have to be
But
that
even
crass.
In that conversation,
when you know Auntie is coming, be like, "Yo, Auntie is about to come. She's coming in 45 minutes. She may tell you that Santa did this thing, but she's delusional." And
I wouldn't even do that. Okay, so look what Santa brought you, what have you. Okay, kiss your auntie and thank her for the gift. And you just said, right there. You gave me the gift, Auntie. Thank you.
Oh wow, you're just gonna throw shade at Auntie right there.
And give Auntie the credit that is due to her. That she took the time to think of her niece or her nephew. She took the time to go shop, stand in line, pay her good hard-earned money.
But you told her exactly what to get.
Guided.
I didn't even know that was happening.
Absolutely.
I had no idea this was happening. So we could use the Christmas season to organize all of the Al-Kebalan women across the United States because they're going to talk to each other to figure out what the children want. Why wasn't I aware of these conversations? We've been excluded, Jermaine.
You choose to be.
Nobody ever called me and was like, "Hey, what is Cal dealing with? What would you like?"
You never asked him. "Hey, Mom, what you want for Christmas?" Before you were.
No. We knew from very early on that Christmas was one-sided. That it was from the adults to the children.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, we learned that very early on. And Kwanzaa is pretty much the same. It's usually geared from adult to child as a reward for an achievement or growth throughout the year.
No gifts between husband and wife?
Not necessary. You can, but if there's going to be any gift giving, it should be something not so much based on consumerism or the consumerism mentality. It should be something of personal value from one person to the next. You might even want to set, like you do during your Secret Santa exchanges, which I'm familiar with still, that you set a limit. Do not buy a gift of more than $20 for this Secret Santa, because you ain't gonna get a gift of more than $20 for this Secret Santa.
Right.
So now that I'm starting to be aware that the women are having this conversation, now I can get an understanding that that coloring book and those crayons might have been from the dollar store.
Right, and there was a list of suggestions, and
So there's all kinds of communication going on with the women, and I didn't even know about this. This is all very interesting. So if y'all are doing all this communication, how come our Kwanzas be looking so weak?
Well, it's two different issues, right? It's because Kwanzaa is an investment. It's more of an investment than Christmas. Christmas is you kind of show up, you bring a gift, you eat some food, and that's it.
I'm going to say this. We're allowed to be lazy with Christmas because it's all around us. So therefore, you don't necessarily have to do something because, like Jesus is going to provide the snow for your white Christmas.
Right.
Santa's Enchanted Forest is going to be up the street. So there's a whole carnival dedicated to the Santa. So you can go to just about any mall in America. Hell, I dare say you could walk out to any house next door to you and get festive right the hell there. Like I could literally go next door and feel like I'm in a winter wonderland. So because it's so much all around you, you don't necessarily have to do anything. Now, with Kwanzaa, you have to now work against the grain.
Mm-hmm.
You have to now block out all the Christmassy winter wonderland stuff, which I don't know where Africans got winter wonderlands from, unless they lived up in the top of Kilimanjaro or something. And then you have to literally assert your Kwanzaa decorations. You have to put up
it's required that flag.
It's not required. The bandera, it's not required, but it's good to have. You should have one. Mm-hmm. It's not any great extra effort. So you should have up your bandera. You should have up your color themes. You should have some kente cloth up. So you're gonna want to have these things, and it's going to look different. So even when your neighbors, like our neighbors, come to bring you gifts and your door flies open, they're gonna think you're throwing a Black Panther party in your house. They're pretty much gonna be sure that that's not where baby Jesus
came from.
Yeah, they're gonna be like, this must be like liberated Black baby Jesus in this house.
And worthy to be afraid of.
Yes, there's gonna be some fear. There's gonna be some apprehension of, because I tell you what, not having any decoration would probably be less offensive to them than seeing that Marcus Garvey flag flying in your house when they haven't seen it all year. So they know that you're just doing it as some kind of celebration. And then
just to be a contrarian.
A contrarian. That's a word that's being thrown out there too. A contrarian. That's what's happening.
Just to do something against them and make them feel uneasy.
Can you imagine that?
That's what you guys came up with?
Yeah.
Can
you imagine that?
To exclude us.
And one of the things we should also mention is that Kwanzaa is not a religious holiday. It's a cultural holiday, meaning that you can be any denomination, Christian or Muslim, and participate, because it has nothing to do with offending baby Jesus, white God, or Asiatic Muhammad.
Mm-hmm.
It's strictly about the festival of first fruits, which is a customary tradition around the continent of Al-Kebalan. Even here in the States and Caribbean, any agricultural group of people would have had a first fruits celebration, as we still do. But it's just codifying it to be around the same time of year as the new year, taking full advantage of the flexible vacation hours, the lull in productivity, the merriment, and also the power of the winter solstice if you're into your cosmology. So it's definitely cosmological as well in that sense, even though, let me walk that back. I didn't see in my reading any kind of cosmological references. Some people still think cosmology and zodiac stuff has to do with not being tethered to some religions, even though every Christian knows their zodiac sign.
Yeah.